video is gonna have more action than my previous ones. The skies are so dramatic right now. I love this kind of weather, it's no secret. However, I'm not sure the camera does. But listen, Cam, you and I, we're pals. Go on, just compromise, please. Why the cap? Because he's worldly.
I knew it.
Hi guys! I'm back this time with something new, something different, something experimental. Excuse me for 1 sec. I'm back. The topic of the video is me trying my best to borrow from a favorite artist and see if I can make a concoction of techniques and develop something new out of that. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I decided to see if I can paint like Leyendecker. JC Leyendecker, he's part of the golden age of illustration, which was sometimes in the 20s, 30s. I come from illustration, and he was one of the artists that was often mentioned as an example. What happens is sometimes in academies, there is this exercise that is given where you choose a favorite artist and you paint something they have painted. So this was done with the goal of actually learning from the technique that the artist was using. The only way to do that is by copying their work. I can't say that I've ever done anything resembling a Leyendecker. In that sense, to me, this exercise is very experimental. I'm not actually copying anything Leyendecker painted. I am borrowing from his technique and painting something new. If we were to say that this isn't enough, I haven't actually done any studies beforehand. I'm jumping in some deep waters here, and I just want to see what happens. So this is going to be the process of me discovering whether I can successfully use a foreign technique and learn from it. Let's see, shall we? My hand hurts already. This is so not avoiding white knuckles, I don't think. Back to what I was talking about. You can say that JC Leyendecker's work was very relevant to the time period that Captain America came from.
And at the front of the fight, shoulder to shoulder with our battling boys, is Captain America.
Can it be more fitting? I don't think so. So we're going back in time. Sometimes jumping blindly into something is the best way to learn. Having a bit of a direction would be very helpful, but we're not gonna dwell on that too much. We're just gonna go for it. So we're gonna start with our boulder areas, start blocking some of those shadows. Be brave about it. By the way, lately I've been very much rediscovering myself in more than one sense. I have been very entertained by superhero movies, which is not very characteristic of me at all. I recently discovered Captain America. What? That is, I discovered him for myself. I've never really been into comics, I've never really been into the fantasy world. I kind of keep it pretty real, with a few exceptions. Somehow, I sort of experienced a flip in my interests, and this is the result of that. Now, the one thing we know about Leyendecker's work is that he suggests that we start with the shadows, block the shadows, but keep them very transparent. One thing we know about gouache is that it's not a transparent medium to begin with, or it's not used that way. It could be used as a transparent medium, but a lot of the paint has kind of velvety matte finish to it. So we can't really rely on gouache to be transparent. We can use the characteristics of the medium that we prefer to use and apply the technique to that. We don't have to be super strict about the application if it doesn't work well with our choice of medium. I'm gonna get back to refining that later on, so I'm not worried about getting out of the line. Part of the characteristics of gouache are, because it's a matte medium, it doesn't allow for much saturation in the colors, so we're always going to have duller kind of overall look, which some people like, some people don't. I personally have no problem with it, but if it is something that you're seeking, then probably gouache is not the one for you. Oil paints are probably the closest. One thing I didn't know is that the guy actually worked with oils. So this is another challenge that is presenting to me because I'm working with gouache. And as we know, the two mediums are quite different. You may call them opposite. One stays wet for as long as you are painting, the other dries almost instantaneously. It does present some technical differences that you will have to deal with, especially when you're trying to simulate someone's technique. You know, you can't be using a technique that works against that medium. They will clash and nothing's gonna work. So you may ask, why didn't I just do a study in oil? That would be a good question there. I'm too invested in working with gouache and I can't really see myself go back to oil these days. That would have presented me with another transitional period where I had to warm up to it and get back into its ways, and I just can't be bothered. I can't. Doesn't exactly have the boldest of lines and the boldest of shadows, so it's kind of sort of meh when it comes to contrast. That being said, there's still features, there's still some subtle lights and shadows, so we can work with this. Part of Leyendecker's work is about the definition of features, definition of forms, and so that is something we have to chase here. So there is a point where you're going to be very, very far away from your comfort zone. Just keep at it, you know, because this is the sort of pivotal moment where you start to discover new things.
But you haven't seen anything yet. Now you're just beginning your trip to regrets. You might think you know me, but soon you forget. I'm too insane, and you know it. You got to learn to like me again and again, 'cause I'll make you love me again and again. Just when you think you love me, you think again, 'cause I will make you hate me again and again. Again and again. Again and again. You wanna ride on my wave just because it's fun. You wanna.
Another thing about Leyendecker's brushstrokes, to a degree, you could say they're certainly premeditated. Leyendecker's technique is well established, and there's a pattern to it that you can detect in most of his work. My technique is different, and it's very much relying on realism. Number one thing about the portrait is likeness. If your portrait does not carry the likeness, what is the point of painting a portrait? That's not to say that you can still kind of have fun with certain designs whilst painting a human being. But if likeness is extremely important to you, it's probably going to take priority over everything else. What I'm trying to say, simply, is that I've learned predominantly how to copy reality without much of the whimsical personal touch. I can't say that I've established a specific recognizable style, but I'm okay with that. Now, his brushstrokes were very bold. He had a lot of sort of thick contour lines and a kind of graphic approach with the brush. Basically, he used the brush very boldly, almost like a drawing tool. He did have some blending, but he did also work with a lot of, you can say, cross-hatching. I was advised not too long ago by one of my tutors to try and paint like I draw. And that was in a sense to kind of like rediscover myself and discover new ways in paint application, which I think that I finally understand these days. I wasn't exactly sure what she meant by it back in the day, but eventually it sank in. I believe this is a neat way to look at it. Paint like you draw. Should we just wait for this cloud to pass? Because I feel like it's super dark at the moment. Like, that made a difference. So, I related wholeheartedly with Steve Rogers. Anybody else who relates to Steve Rogers? If you didn't know, I'm a painter by day and a super soldier fighting crime at night. You can say that Steve Rogers is my spirit animal. The guy just melts your heart. He's all about the good in the world, and he wants to fight, to protect, not to kill. His choice of arms is defensive, it's not offensive. Why are we always fascinated with the villains? Why is nobody putting focus on the important things? If the world did have super soldiers, I hope they're all like him. That's it. I've completely geeked out. I realize that. But look, we need those moments. Especially in times like these, where everything is madness. And we need something positive to hold on to. By the way, I actually also had no idea that the guy was an artist. Like, How can I possibly relate more to a person? I don't know. What's not to like? And if you were one of those people who are totally turned off by vanilla, as you call it, God, I hate that term. Although, I don't, because I actually love vanilla. Vanilla is delicious. Can you imagine the world without vanilla? I'm done with villains, man. I'm done with assholes.
Language.
Something only portrait artists would know. Do you know when you draw a face for too long, it starts to look different? Is that just me, or does that happen to other people? Any portrait artists out there, please tell me. I believe that's actually like a general occurrence for artists overall and their artwork. You stare at something for days and you can't see your own mistakes because you've been staring at something, your eyes are so accustomed to it that it becomes a problem. Like, you need to flip your work, you need to look at it in the mirror, you need someone else to tell you what mistakes you've made because you literally cannot see it. I would imagine that's the same case. Like, I'm just experiencing it with portraits specifically because I paint a lot of portraits. I'm possibly answering my own question there, so don't bother. Or do, you know, whichever. Does it look like Leyendecker would do this? That's the question. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this. Well, no. Let's wing it, Mina. Gosh. Okay, just. Okay, I'm gonna make a few corrections. There are a few moments in the process of the painting where I had to change the design that I had come up with. The shields, that took a while. I had to make some decisions in the way that it captured the light and in the way that how Leyendecker would have painted that shield. Would it be more on the graphic spectrum, or would it be more on the well-blended painterly side? You can't really, I don't know. Like, the final result works for me better, to be fair. In that sense, it worked well. In that sense, it was successful. Mina, get off the shield for a second. Are we okay with this the way it is? We are. Moving on. The most interesting, I would say, experience out of this whole process is the very thought that liberates you from subscribing and committing 100% to a material and its characteristics. You can use paints differently than what you've been traditionally taught. There are ways to kind of break those rules and play around and see what more you can discover out of these mediums. They're not as limiting as we study them, as we know them to be. So if you say the final result of your painting does not speak Leyendecker, would Leyendecker have painted this way? Probably not. But the process of it was what was important for me to understand a new approach and to understand my own personal preferences of application. Why, how, when. So you would be surprised how much you would learn about your own ways and yourself when you're trying to learn someone else's ways. This video is getting very philosophical. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. Another thing about Leyendecker's work is that he used to work for magazine covers. I believe he was the first artist to ever do that. And then he sort of set the tone. He would work on a big scale because his advice to his student was, if you were to be working for a magazine cover, you need to make the figures a few sizes bigger than the magazine format itself. So basically he had huge canvases where he would do his work and then pictures would be taken and then shrunken down to the size necessary. But he did do preliminary sketches that were a smaller scale. I can't quite say that the reasons why that the result of my tries in a smaller scale illustration is not working as well because of its size. It's just that there is that to consider. If you think that it was a waste of time watching something that never really happened, didn't really get achieved, that's not true. Failure is necessary towards learning. In fact, and also don't be ashamed of failure. Failure is a must. If we're afraid of failure all the time, we'll never be able to achieve anything. So guys, I hope you're well. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this video, do please click the like button. I really appreciate it when you do. Click subscribe to watch more videos, and yeah, comment below if you like. That would be nice too. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Whatever happens tomorrow, you must promise me one thing. It's that you will stay who you are. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
To the little guys.
That's correct.